It's 6:01. I'm calling the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of May 4th, 2023 to order. Can we begin with roll call?
Yes, sir. Hector Garcia. Present. Rolando Cáceres. Present. Mike Barone.
Present.
Manuel Rangel.
Present.
Johnny Narvaez.
Present.
Yusheng Wang.
Here.
Regina Portillo.
Present.
Daniela Salapaz.
Present.
Ana Villarreal. For the record, you do have quorum.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Can we have a motion to excuse the commissioner who's not present today?
Motion to excuse?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion carries. Let's go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to the next item of consider approval of the minutes of regular meeting of April 6th, 2023, and regular meeting of April 20th, 2023.
Move to approve minutes of April 6th and April 20th.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Moving on to citizens' comments.
Yes, sir, we do have citizens' comments, and we've stacked them in front of you. You have them in front of you, and I believe they're in the order that they were given to us.
So the item that the citizen comments are in reference to item 9F, which I believe is a final plat. So that particular section of items does not entail a public hearing, a public comment. So what we're going to do is do the general comments at this time now. So I have a list of Ruby Rangel, Miguel Cepeda, Juan Vergara, Javier Emilio Garza, Juan Rodriguez, Rosa M. Garcia de Anda, Ricardo de Anda, and Jesse Rangel. So typically we'll do about 3 minutes of general comments. Y'all can come up first. So Ruby Rangel. Or if there's somebody else who wants to come in particular order.
Chairman, may I go first?
Yes, you may. You give me 2 minutes to everyone? No. Well,
It's the same, isn't it, because it's the same item, they all get 3 minutes? Or if you could,
we can go based on the consensus, I guess, of topic. If one person,
I was gonna say, if they're all, we do have the option to limit it to 3 minutes if they're all gonna be expressing the same point of view, but I mean, that'd be at your discretion.
okay. If you can just state your name for the record.
Yes, Ricardo de Anda. I reside at 961 El Pico Road in Laredo. Thank you for hearing me out. I live right below the Pinnacle subdivision, and I wanted to show you what it looks like on paper. You guys are familiar with this?
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, we'll let them get started before we start
Yes,
the
of
clock.
course.
Okay. I mean, just so you can get organized, then we'll start the clock.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to point out to you that this is 1,600 acres that you're looking at. That's almost 3 square miles. If it's not the largest subdivision development that you're working with, it's got to be one of the largest ones. I want to show you what the site looked like before the development. This is the water plant, and that's Vidal Cantu Road, and that's the Mines Road. I want to show you what it looks like now. Can I do something to get focused?
Should be right on the
Can you help me focus this? There you go. Okay, so let me orient. You can see the Mines Road, and then that's Pico Road, let me see, that's Pico Road
The next one up.
there. Right above my finger is Pico Road. And you can see how it loops around and goes through the back end of the water plant. That's 1,600 acres that are under development. All of that water comes down, it doesn't go into the river, it comes down over Pico Road, and the landowners that are here are in the way of that water. Besides the effect that it has on landowners, this is what it's doing to the public improvements, the public right-of-way. That's Pico Road. That's a creek built by the county to handle the runoff from above Pico Road. That bridge that was built by the county has always been able to handle the water. I've been living there for 45 years. This is a 1.6 inch rain. We've gone through 8 inches of rain one day during hurricanes, and we've never had that kind of flooding on Pico Road. This is a public improvement that you guys are dealing with now. It's not just private land. We're dealing with the after effects of that private land. But the county has to deal with this infrastructure that's being overloaded and overrun by the runoff. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about the law. I happen to be a lawyer. The allowable discharge this is from your land development code. It says the ultimate 100-year design storm event shall be used in determining the required retention volume for the development site. You're supposed to look at a 100-year floodplain. This was a 1.6 inch rain that we got. It was the first rain that we got. They've basically torn out all 1,600 acres. Even though you've not granted plat approval on all of it, they've cleared it out. Now, it says the discharge rate from the facility, that's the Pinnacle, shall be such that the pre-development discharge rate from the site is not exceeded in the post-development condition for the design storm event. The preconditioned discharge rate shall be calculated assuming the proposed site is in a natural state. What the law says, what you guys have to conform with, and with respect to the law, is to ensure that that site does not discharge any more water after it's been developed than it was discharging before it was developed. How is that assured? Well, the developer has to prepare a storm water discharge plan for the whole 1,600 acre site. That plan is presented to the city engineer. I hope he's here, because he should answer to that. The city engineer reviewed that plan and approved that plan. Obviously, that plan is not working, because you will see evidence of that with the rest of the people that are coming behind me. There's a stormwater pollution prevention plan that the developer must put together and that must be approved by the city engineer. We noticed that there was construction debris in the water that was coming onto our property. That's paints, lumber, debris, concrete materials. There's supposed to be a plan to prevent that from happening. That's obviously not happening either. The city engineer has approved these two plans. They're not working, and you'll see the evidence of that.
Excuse me, Mr. Amba. Just real quick, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
To avoid the 3 minutes, I'm just a suggestion to the commission, if maybe we can open this item, that way we don't have the time, because I know just to give a little bit more time.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
Would that be, I mean, that's up to the commission, but
Yeah, so what I was planning to do is to have a motion to move up item 9F, so we can actually open discussion with the engineers and department heads.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carries.
May I continue?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. So what to do? You're gonna hear from Mr. Rodriguez, who was literally flooded out of his home on a 1.6-inch event. There was a 0.6-inch event that also ran into his home. There's people who are fearful of a 4, 6, 8-inch rain in the middle of the night. And you'll see evidence of why they're fearful. So what to do about it? The engineer, under the code, is supposed to look at the effects of the downstream discharge that's caused by the development. That's his duty, that's his responsibility, to look at what is happening downstream. He's not looked at that because, as you can see, he apparently approved a plan that doesn't work. We're asking that you direct the engineer to cause the developer to reconfigure and amend the developer's stormwater discharge plan and his stormwater pollution prevention plan to fix the problem. You can't do it, the city engineer is the one that can do it. We're asked, the city engineer can pull the permit if he sees that the plan is not working. You can't do that, but you can direct him to do that. We're asking that you table the Unit 6 final approval of the plat, pending a determination by the city engineer that the developer's engineer has come up with an amended stormwater discharge plan that will not flood our homes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless you have any other questions.
We can't interact on the general comments, but thank you.
Oh, I wanted to show you a couple of things.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead and run the, this is Pico Road. There's like 3 or 4 county bridges that were built 100 years ago. They're getting overrun by the discharge, causing hazardous conditions. Right here again. You can see where the lollipop is, the yellow lollipop, that's the bridge. There's 3 bridges, they're being overrun, they're creating hazardous conditions to the traffic that uses Mike Road. Pico Road. Thank you.
I understand. Who would be like, the next person who would like to come up to speak?
We'll keep it 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juan Rodriguez. I live at 346 El Pico Road since 1992 for 31 years. And back in those days, there used to be on the north side of our property, not in our property, but on the north side of the property, there used to be a stock tank or a presa, whatever you want to call it. And in 1999, Laredo was hit by Hurricane Brett. And the eye of the hurricane went right over Laredo. In one day, there were 12 inches of rain in Laredo, and we didn't flood. Now, it rains barely an inch and a half and we flood. I don't know if there's any images of the videos or whatever that we sent, but anyway, the flooding gets bad. I mean, sometimes it comes in at 2 in the morning when it's dark, and the home starts making creaking noises, grinding noises. It's scary. And I don't know what else to say besides, you know, the fact that every time I see, me and my family, we see rain clouds, we feel apprehensive about this because it's scary when you have so much water rushing through your property. And we had to level the home several times already, it cost money. It came to a point where we had to build a wall around the home. You can see on the images there, a concrete brick wall to keep the water from going under the home and keep from spending the money leveling the home, because it is bad. It is bad, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope, you know, I don't know about solutions, but I hope something gets done about this. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I can allow one more person to, since all these cards are on the same topic and against the item, I can have one more person come up and speak.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity that I come out here and speak about my place.
Your name for the record, I'm sorry.
Miguel Cepeda. Miguel Cepeda. I have a small property out there. I've had it for 33 years. It's number 4 El Pico Road. It's like the gentleman said, we've had some strong rain out there and everything, and we wouldn't worry because there's a lot of rock and you don't get that much mud. But the volume of water that we're getting now, it's like that gentleman said, it kind of worries you. You don't sleep at night. I'm not getting flooded, but my property is getting destroyed. Because all the water runs through there and it's taking all the soil. I've never been lucky in my life. I don't know how I got so lucky that they built 2 great ponds next to me, and they're draining those 2 ponds right into my 7 acres. Can I show you a picture so you have an idea? Let me see if I can make this work. I'm right here, right next to unit number 4. My place is this little speck right here. Like compared to unit 4 and unit 5, mine is that little speck right there. And to give you a better idea, this is my place right here. That's my place. Right there where those 2 blue circles are at, that's where they built 2 ponds. And I measured them the other day. I might be wrong a little bit. What I measured, it was 300 feet by 200 feet and 10 feet deep. That's a lot of water they can retain. The only thing is, it says retaining pond. To me, it says it's supposed to hold something. It doesn't hold anything. I got pictures where they built some drainage. I think it's 36 by 36. It's destroying my back property over here, and it's destroying my front property, and it's destroying my roads. I don't have the money, like the gentleman said. You'll see me Saturdays out there with a rake and a shovel trying to fix my roads. But this is just too much. I can't handle this. I mean, when it rained, I thought it'll mess it up a little bit. And I would go out there. Like I said, I don't have the money. If I did, maybe I wouldn't be complaining. But I don't, and it's like I said, what am I gonna do? I don't have the money to fix it. I mean, I don't have the money to bring soil in. And if I did, it's gonna be carried away. Could I show you a picture of some of the runoff?
Yes.
And I spoke to them back in September of last year when we had 6 inches of rain. I couldn't get to my place. Okay, and I got some animals over there. Matter of fact, this morning, my son lives there. I have a son and my grandson that live there. And they called me this morning and said, Dad, you know what, the animals got out. I said, how did they get out? I said, well, through the hole on the fence where the water runs in. Yeah, they created, and you're talking about goats. I mean, they're a good-sized animal. This is my gate before I had it fixed. I don't know if you can see the damages on it. I have a whole bunch of glare here. But you can, I don't know where we're getting that glare from. You can see all that where my gate is, where the water runs. I had to have that fixed. And ladies and gentlemen, when you hire somebody, they even charge you to take the equipment out there. I mean, and I started to learn this because I'd never gotten, help out there. But they charge you $300 and $500 just to take the equipment over there. And then they charge you by the hour. So it gets very expensive. It gets very expensive. It's unfortunate that we're having a lot of glare, but I don't know if you can see this. Right there where that pole is, it was over there by the fence, and the fence is over here on the top, and that's where my animals are getting out. And I went out there and tried to fix it, and you fix it, but it's like I tell you, every time it rains, it's gonna eat up more soil and more soil. To be honest with you, I really don't know what to do. And now that, that they're building more and more, I would love to know where that water's going. Is it gonna add up to this one? And then, because the first week that this happened to me, I mean, I couldn't sleep at night. Just thinking, what am I gonna do? I mean, what am I gonna do? So, really, I'm here asking you for help. Because, like I said, man, you saw my little place compared to what they're dumping there. And their ponds are huge. But really, I don't know how I got so lucky to have two ponds right next to me. And both of them draining. I spoke to one of their workers, and I talked to him. I don't blame them because they're just doing what they're told. And he told me, hey, what are you trying to do, flush you out? I guess. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you could help us, I sure would appreciate it. And God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
So Mr. Dana did come to our office. I believe we had the Rangel family also come to our office. That's correct. To just let us know about these issues. We did report it to our engineering department that went out and did a physical investigation out there. Pico Road does not belong to us, belongs to the county, but we called them also so that they could send out inspectors. They did that also. So we take these comments seriously. We want to make sure that everything's okay, but we did take their message and we forwarded it to the proper people to look at it. And so we did that part. The plat was actually held a little bit longer so that we'd give enough time for an investigation to see what's going on out there. We received the packet complete with the final letter by the city engineer after his investigation of the property. And that's why it's coming to this commission, be presented to you as a final consideration because all the ordinances were met, and it's coming with no comments. So that's where we stand right now. So I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you the issues of the ponds and where they are and what have you. But the way we do the process, the design stays with the city departments, and all departments get a chance to review the design plans by their engineers. And then after it's been reviewed, letters from each department are given to the city engineer to clear this project. And then the final letter from the city engineer comes to us. Once we receive clearance from all the departments, then we're obligated to put it on the agenda for final. So that's what we have in our records to be able to put this on final. So I just wanted to update you on how the process went and how it was put on this agenda.
Any questions from the commission?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. Mr. Navarro, would it be possible to hear from the engineering department so we have some context on the series of events that have happened that have led us to the impact that the families are facing?
Sure. Well, we do have the city engineer here. We have the engineer of record also in the audience. I'm hoping they'll answer any questions that might come up.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Ramon Chavez, city engineer. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, if you can give us some context as to how we got to this point with the Pinnacle development and how approvals along the way have, maybe led to this situation and sort of the context of dealing with development right next to a floodplain.
Okay, well, the plans are reviewed for compliance of the Cerro Laredo subdivision ordinance, including storm drainage standards. So that's been reviewed and approved by our office as it relates to this development particularly. There's hours and hours of review that take place by staff, by myself, to review drainage reports and all the information that's submitted by the engineers. Sometimes we're under crunch time, we're under pressure because we only have a 2-week window. So we try to review these plans within that time frame because we have to provide comments back and turn around, because otherwise then the development needs to move on. And those are things that we're discussing. We analyze this thoroughly. We analyze it fully to the max. We look at upstream watersheds and the watersheds that are within the development. And of course, we make sure that they don't release more than whatever the pre-development rate is. So we look at all those things. Again, these is under a certain time frame that we do this. And I know there's engineers here present in this meeting and that know that we need to meet those deadlines. My staff is instructed, and we're not going to approve anything by no means that will not be correct. The engineer of record has a responsibility. I have a responsibility, again, as a city engineer, and all that is taken into consideration.
And in your opinion, is there anything else that you think we should know in terms of this area in particular, maybe the historical, like the amount of rain that we've been getting? Is there anything else that you think we should consider?
Well, again, the plans are reviewed for compliance. There are certain standards. Detention ponds have to be designed for a 100-year storm event, and there's detention ponds in place for this development. They've done some additional improvements. We did a site visit post-storm event. There's some certain things that we will be asking the engineer to address. And so we'll be providing those as part of some of the phases that have already been approved. Some of those items that are still under warranty, because a lot of these items, again, the development takes place once it's constructed and approved. 1 year later, it becomes the city's infrastructure. So if we don't identify some of these things on time as well, then they become part of the city responsibility and maintenance that will have to come out of taxpayers' money. And so we protect that as well. That's part of our due diligence, not only as a city engineer, but as a department as a whole.
So just to paraphrase here, you get inherited whatever the developer developed around the retaining ponds?
Once it's constructed and accepted by the city, yes.
Thank you.
You said there's some items that you're addressing with the engineer. Any of those items would address the situation that was shown to us via video and pictures?
Some of those are considered maintenance. Again, the subdivisions, some of the ones that we identified, because there's many phases that have already been developed out there, and some of these pertain to different phases that we're trying to identify. Again, to make sure that they're still in the warranty period or there's still something that we can address, we're definitely going to do that.
May I address the board? There's a line of people that wish to address you with their damages. Perhaps you can get a better look at what's happening. The city engineers told you that they meet specifications. The proof is in the pudding. It's not happening. It is very discouraging that the city engineer, after seeing these photos, is telling you, oh, I need to sit down with with the developer engineer and figure out the problem. Are you willing to do that, sir? Do you think it's necessary to sit down?
Sir, can you direct your comments to the chair,
Comments
please?
be directed to the commission.
Thank you for
You
reminding
gotta
me.
do it in a certain
I understand.
manner. So,
I would hope that the city engineer would tell you there is a problem here. You can see it with your own eyes, I can see it with my own eyes. This plan is not working. I will sit down with the developer's engineer and figure out a solution. I would hope that he would be willing to do that. And I understand that that was Ms. Portillo's question, or that was where he was leading to.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But I do hope that you will let the others speak, because they've got their problems.
Mr. Chairman, I do have
Yes.
one more question.
Sure.
I'm not sure if this is for Mr. Navarro or Mr. Chavez. But is there anything in our policy of that two-week period for engineering or anything related to development which happens right next to county lines, so outside of city limits? And whether the areas outside of city limits are considered when undergoing those types of reviews?
So, when you talk about where the county and the city meet, outside city limits, we still have the ETJ to work with. That's still considered area that developers must abide by city ordinances when they do their development. So this is within that, so they would take care of that. Once you get outside the ETJ, then that falls on the county itself. And we don't take part in those discussions.
Okay.
I think we can, do we have an aerial of this area
In the presentation?
in the presentation?
In the presentation?
Google Earth. I don't know if they'll be able to Google Earth on there. See if we can pull it up.
We should table it.
While we pull up the arrow, I do have a question. If I may, Mr. Chairman. I guess to the engineer of record of the final plat, assuming Mr. Gilpin. I guess pulling up the aerial, we did that right now as well, trying to get our bearings straight in the area. But it seems like a lot of the property has been cleared of the 116 acres. And I apologize, but I know there's been, I'm assuming, a few phases that have already come in. I've noticed some of the areas have already been built out. And the question is, do you know a percentage of how much has already been platted and of this master plan?
Of this one that you're looking at, we have platted about 600 acres, and I think we have about 100 acres left to go.
Okay. And then,
That percentage.
and of course, during the planning process, you would submit, you have to detain, they have to accept your detention ponds and your areas.
Yeah, it's a pretty rigorous process, and just to let the commissioners know what we do on that. We do a lot of stuff, it's something that I should anticipate that somebody might want to take legal action. We do more than what's required of the city, by the city. The release rate that we're releasing, once the thing is all fully designed in the area that Mr. DeAnda is referring to, is less than what we would be allowed to by the city. So we put that in with the city, and obviously the guys that know how to look at that, the team at the city realizes that we're being conservative. So it's easier way to pass it through the city. If you try to shave it to the limit, it's a little bit more challenging. So we do that. But internally, before we have them look at it, we send it out to a consultant, and even though we're not obligated to, we get a second opinion. So we have all our Ts crossed and all our Is dotted. And the way something like this should play out, this isn't a courtroom. This is something we're trying to process through the rules, and everybody else has to do the same rules. And our approach to it is to be a little bit more conservative for a variety of reasons. But Mr. DeAnda's course of action, if he doesn't think we did it right, is court. He's an attorney, he can take us to court. And That would be, that would
You
be.
should not force us to have to go to court, but it's your.
Mr. Leandro, I'm sorry.
I'm not saying you're forced to go to court.
Don't threaten me with court.
I'm not, he's the attorney, I'm not threatening him with court, I'm saying that he would be very able to do that, and we wouldn't subject ourselves to that vulnerability. We're conservative. We follow the rules, we have a lot of people that we deal with at the city, staff members that know we're conservative, and we do that on purpose. We want to be as conservative as we can. And so, I have an exhibit, I don't know if I can get you all to see it pretty good, but I think it amply demonstrates how conservative we've been here. I have a thumb drive. Is that any possibility that anybody can help me with the thumb drive?
On the side of the screen, on the left side of the screen, there's a USB.
Show me how to do it.
¿Qué podemos hacer para ayudar? Si nosotros
Esta conexión, más que el table.
So I have an exhibit here that shows the area, and there's a lot going on there. And I want to talk to you a little bit about, I tried to make it as simple as possible so we can go through colors real quick. So the corner of our development, you see where there's a lot of structures. Is there a good way to point here?
color,
Okay.
yellow.
Laser.
Thank you. I don't know if y'all, I'll try to talk a little louder. This is the city water plant. This is the corner of our subdivision. Okay, our unit 6 is over here. This is the unit in front of you tonight. This 13-acre tract is what's required by the city as it calculates out to satisfy the city. On the yellow spot we have here is a structure that was already built on a road that the city built some years ago. And there's no practical way to change that. When a city builds a structure, they tend to build a little bit small because that's the way the rules work. So we have to detain a greater amount to fit it through the structure under the road. So that's what we did. Yeah, this property, it was not too practical to develop. And one of the things we were looking at is it afforded us the opportunity to be a little bit more conservative in how we presented the city. So this black line represents a pond that's there that's not required by the city. That pond can store water, that pond can store water and storm it. The magenta line here, kind of purplish, represents a barricade to water leaving our property. Hello? Okay. So all this area is extra. And then this black line represents a pond that's in this area that's also extra. The magenta line represents a barricade that prevents water from leaving our property. So there's a lot of stuff here. I'm not saying that the water can't inevitably leave our property, but nothing that's here is required. This is the only thing that's required, and we had to be really conservative on that, even above and beyond this extra. That's weird. So this little yellow area here is a structure that makes it really conservative. And these are the kinds of things we put in front of our engineers, our team, and then we go to the city and we show them, and then they review all the calculations. So that's how we got here. That's where we're at right now. Now, this area down here is one of the parties that's complained, and that entire area, all these yellow lines represent stuff that's not coming from our property. They're tributaries going to the main creek. This is coming from our property, the development.
The blue one?
Say again?
The blue one?
The blue one. The yellow ones are from other properties.
Okay.
So you can get a sense how many things are feeding into this. Now, there is something here that I think is concerning to the people in the area. I went out to look at it to try to figure out, I feel that something has changed, and they're talking about that. This dash line is different now. This dash line is a tributary, but it has a road in it that's now been paved by the county. And it acts, when the county paves on a county road, it's not like in the city. You know, it doesn't have all the drainage infrastructure. So you have a paved road going down through this little creek tributary, and all the water can do is run down the paved road. So that is a big introduction to this immediate area. This is one person that's impacted. Mr. Deanda's property is right here. And above Mr. Deanda's property, there's some hills that drain across his property, which, you know, he's dealt with over the years, and I understand that. But this area is a low-lying area down here that we're talking about. All the parties involved in complaining, and I understand their concern, but It is a low-lying area. It's in the bottom.
This has never happened before. Don't tell us it's a low.
You didn't have that paved. Well, anyway, I do agree that there's something different there, but what I agree what's different, we've been very conservative in what we did. And the only thing I see in the area that I could find is this new paved road with no drainage infrastructure. So that's how I'm seeing it.
If we can just please keep order. Let's have the engineer record finish, and then,
I don't know if I should still use this one. I guess it's working. Any other questions? All right, thank you all.
thank you.
Thank you, John. I would just point out that it's not the city who requires. The only thing the city requires is that the runoff not be any greater after the development than before. It's up to him to figure out how that gets done. It's not the city that says, do a reservoir here and do a reservoir there. It's up to him to do that and convince the city that it works. Now, subdivision again.
What, just 1 second, we need to give you the mic. There you go.
You can see here easily,
There you go.
There.
you can see here easily where the creeks are. Here's the main creek, here's 2 tributaries. They go right into this property here and on down Pico Road. You can see it right here. It's not a road that's causing this. They've torn out all of this native vegetation. They may not have platted it yet, but they've torn down the vegetation. That means all this water is coming right down. Now, that's just vegetation. It's not concrete or pavement or roofs. If you approve Unit 6, that means they're gonna put more roofs, that means they're gonna put more pavement, that means they're gonna put more concrete, and it's gonna increase the runoff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next?
What I'll do is, because let me just address the audience. So we have a limit of 3. People can come up and talk. Now, I'm gonna let anybody else come in if they have anything else different to say or different to show. So we've had 3 people show already, so I'll go ahead and give 2 more people to go ahead and come up really quick, just for the amount of time. So who would like to come first? Gentleman in the, that raised up his hand first. Your name, sir, for the record? Your name for the record?
My name is Jesse Rangel.
Okay.
So he was talking about, what he was talking earlier was about my property. I haven't even addressed yet about my property. But I've lived in Pico Road since probably 97, around 97. I didn't live in this property, I lived further up in Pico Road. And as a little kid, my parents have 2 acres there. As a little kid, when it would rain, I would go into, when it rained, I would go out. Even though we only had 2 acres, I would go out and explore, probably trespassing, I'm sorry, because I have some neighbors there. So I would go and some of the people that most affected are the Rodriguez family. Behind their property, there used to be a lake. I don't know how big it was, but there was a lake there, which is not there anymore. I know that because obviously, like when I would go there, one of the things I wanted to address is on my property, because the sir was talking about my property, which is the one here that's my property was the one that he was addressing, which is, encircled. It was a previous image that was encircled. There used to be it's not here anymore. It's the one that's on that screen. I don't know if they could go back to that screen. But there used to be
That one?
yeah, so this is my property. And this right here, that's approximately 4.5 acre, like pond or lake, which was there. That's not there anymore. They leveled it. I don't know how deep it was, but I went, when it rained, I went that day. It's approximately probably 40 feet in height that they leveled from this area up to this. So I'm not an engineer, but I know that 4.5 acres, about 40 feet high. I know there's a difference there, but that takes when it rains, that would take a lot of water. And this right here, I don't know when this picture is, but you get, based on my property, it was probably like in the dry season, because I have, all this is grass, and it's pretty dry there. So this would absorb most of the water that was coming from up here. And like Mr. Danda pointed out, they cleared all this, they leveled this lake, or this pond, about 45 feet, and they moved the route of this water this way to cement canals that run this way and then run down towards this area. And then this right here, on this image you can't see, there's a natural, like another like little natural, I guess like creek, pond area where water would absorb. Well, that right now, I have some images. That is, they burned it up, so water really couldn't get into here. And so all this water ran from up here, ran this way. They diverted the route of this water right here to these canals, which are cement. There's no absorption of water into the aquifer. There's nothing that's slowing down that water. And then this, that's 13 acres apparently, is burned off, so all the water actually just went straight through. And then what's supposed to retain water, because they said on those plats it says water retention. None of these retained any water at all. It all went straight towards our properties. So this, even though this is yellow coming from this property, they built a retention pond on this side, which didn't retain any water, and that's what's affecting Mr. Cepeda over here. And all that water that's captured from above is going this way. And I don't have an image like right now to show what the Rodriguez's family is going through, but I guess you all saw the video where the water is actually going up to their home. When, I mean, I lived there since '95, and none of that would ever happen at all. This is a video of I want to show, this is my property from my house. And this started happening since last year. Previous to last year, we wouldn't see all that. So I have some little kids, and you can see there on the trampoline. It looks pretty small, but it's a 14-foot trampoline. You can see my kids' bike there. It's flooded. This is where my kids play. And my little kids, especially like my little ones, they see rain and they just run to water. And even though we try to contain them or whatever, so, now, but we're fearful for our lives, for my kids, so that they don't understand how incredibly dangerous this is. There's this one you can really see the flow of the water at the speed that it's coming in, and it washed off my road. So that's the speed it's coming in. Driving on the road. And that's pretty much what we're dealing with now. And this just started happening in my property about last year. I already lost livestock to this. I've lost fences to this. I patched up my fences. I patched them up. I didn't have enough money to put new fence in, but I patched it up. And then with this rain, which was about 2 inches, it was less than 2 inches, it just leveled those patches, it just took them out. And I understand that the gentleman had said that we could go to court or something. I mean, most of us don't have the money to go to court against a big company like this. So what we're asking is, we're asking y'all if y'all could just, I guess, hold on letting them proceed until they fix this issue. Me personally, I don't want them to pay my fences. I'm not asking for recompensation for my livestock. I just want this to be fixed, just because I also have teenage girls, and to them, last year it was so easy for one of them. We were scared after the fact because we didn't know with her vehicle, which is it's a car, it's not a pickup truck like my truck could, could go through water a little bit easier. Even though she should know better, she still went through the water because she got home, it was late, it was nighttime, she wanted to go home, and she ended up crossing. I was at work, and I mean, it could have ended up really dangerous. Luckily, it was just some water damage, and that was it, but that's what we're dealing with in our case.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Argel. Appreciate it. Thank you. So I think we've gotten consensus from yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Rosie Garcia de Anda, and I live at 961 Pico Road. We've lived there for 46 years, and we've never seen flooding like this. It's been since the development of Pinnacle that we've begun to have these problems. I understand that you've seen a lot of photographs. I won't show you the photographs of the flooding in the front of our home, our tenant's home, our chicken coop. It was like what you've been seeing. And we're far from the property, but we've never had this issue. We're here because we're asking for your help. We're here because we feel that you can take the steps to protect us, to make sure that the engineers go back to the drawing board and fix the situation that they have presented to the city, and as a result of it being on city property, also to the county. We are asking that you direct the city engineer and Engineer Gilpin to come up with a new plan. We ask that you table Unit 6. We ask that you call for a moratorium on further plats for Pinnacle until the amended plan is prepared. Please, we're counting on you.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
I want to make a comment. First of all, thank you all for coming. We understand your problems, and we are just here. We, as the planning and zoning, we can only make a suggestion. Obviously, all of this would have to go to city council.
Actually, no, ma'am,
No?
it would stop here. Yeah.
It would stop here?
Yes.
Yes, the Planning and Zoning Commission. This is, remember, this is.
Oh, because it's a plat.
It's a plat, sorry.
It's a
So-
plat. Right. So I just,
Deny the plat, they can appeal to the city council, but we cannot. If you approve the plat, we're stuck, we got more rain. If you deny the plat, then they can appeal to the city council.
Thank you. Entendí el problema.
Is that accurate, Orly?
So,
I would like to provide some guidance
Yes.
as far as the approval procedure. Texas Local Government Code 212.0095 deals with the situation when you've had a preliminary plat conditionally approved and there's been a response by the developer. Section C of that says a municipal authority or governing body that receives a response under section 212.0093 shall approve a previously conditionally approved or disapproved plan or plat if the response adequately addresses each condition of the conditional approval or each reason for the disapproval. So What that means is if there was a conditionally approved plat and the developer has gone back and addressed all those to staff's satisfaction, the Planning and Zoning Commission is basically forced to approve it. So I think that may be applicable in this situation.
That's our only option is to approve at this moment.
Because it is already the plan.
They've already gone through all the, jumped through all the hoops
Yeah,
that
so.
the city has put forth.
We've already heard the comments.
I just wanted to respond to that. That's
I know.
correct. I'm not
At this,
suggesting otherwise.
at this point, I think we've heard the comments from the public, and then we also just heard the legal's comments as far as that and from the department heads.
I just wanted to show you that there is an alternative to the city engineer to serve the people. You could order the city, you could direct the city engineer to take action.
I think
Even though you may be required to approve the plat, you do not have to ignore this issue. You can deal with this issue through your city engineer.
Thank you, I understand. Yes.
I do want to clarify, like, the scope of power of this commission. And, you know, right now what we have in front of us is only Unit 6 of Pinnacle. And all we can do potentially at this point is table it so that we give engineering a chance from both city and county to review what's happening, especially because there are retention ponds, but they're not effective. So I think it would be a good idea to sort of let engineering take a look at what's happening, understand if there are, you know, improvements that can be made to the current infrastructure before we move forward with this plan.
The only problem that I have with that is that the city did their job. All of these things that are being brought up have been addressed by the city engineer. They wouldn't put their stamp on it if they hadn't checked all this. So we're just throwing it, just a time thing. We're gonna throw it back to table it, to redirect, they already did all that. That's the only problem that I have with it.
So,
Yeah,
so
I
just
think-
for clarification, if I may, so by state law, there's a life to this, and the life is 30 days. So if you tabled it, you must bring it back in 2 weeks, and you must take action to this item in 2 weeks. You have to.
And
It's by
if not,
state
what
law.
happens?
It gets approved. It gets approved by state law. Okay?
Okay.
So by tabling it, you would need, I guess, the departments would need to agree to review, but as Commissioner Garcia said, the engineering department did submit their signed letter approving the project based on the designs. And the engineer of the project did respond to all the comments and answered the comments accordingly, and he submitted it. And so that's why I started off by saying that this information was brought to us as a final, free and clear from all departments reviewed, all department directors signed off, submitted their approval letters, and which puts them on the agenda. So that's why I said that's where we are at this moment.
One more quick question, if you don't mind. When it first started, we weren't part of this, of the,
Es lo que decía.
yes, we weren't part of this.
Eso es lo que decía.
This is the last part of this.
Así es.
So, were all these questions asked when, the very beginning? Did they come up with, we're having problems here, consider this, consider that? Why are we waiting to the very end, when everything's been signed, everything's been studied, then from the very beginning, so they could have answers for all this? Or did they look at all these situations before they signed? And I would imagine so. But I don't know if those questions were asked of, we're getting flooding here, something's not right from the very beginning.
Just, the only thing I could say is that this process was done just like any other process, but in this process, there was a rain
Por la
well, actually,
caída
not a
del
flood, it was
agua
just a
o-
rain.
sí, algo
And
diferente.
that's what triggered the residents to come forward, because I guess if it was a sunny, dry month and there was no rain, they probably would never have come forward to speak. That's would be what I would think brought this to your attention, but other than that, the process was done exactly the same as it's done for every other engineer.
And that's what my first question was when I asked the engineer, how much of this master plan has already been platted? Meaning they can go and pull permits tomorrow. And I think he said 500 of the 600 acres. So that's none. In other words, unless, like they mentioned, right, other things other than this commission, they have the right to other things as far as what's happening. But that's property that's platted and ready to construct on as soon as it's sold, or maybe it's already sold.
And maybe it's not part of our commission, but we can see there's a problem. And there wasn't a problem before, but now there is. So how do we do, or how can we amend or make a solution for them to come forward? Maybe it's not our.
The only thing I can say to that is that we have professional engineers that have looked at this. They have to build it out. They have their models. They've done their work.
Their work.
So we rely on our PEs. Like I said, I'm not a PE. We have PEs that work for the city of Laredo. They give it the blessing, we receive it, and we move it forward. So we're looking at, the private sector engineer had, from what I heard, two companies looking at this project. The city of Laredo has their engineers. That is the process that we go through. We rely on the directors and their team to go through the process, so that when it comes here and you have a final and has no comments on it, that means our departments and our engineers, they have gone through it and they deemed it cleared for final.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Yes.
make a comment? So earlier in this meeting, I think I had an understanding that city engineering and county engineering are looking into what is happening and the situation, that maybe they weren't aware of the amount of stormwater that is going through these areas. So is it?
Aware of
Are
the
they actually-
stormwater going through this area?
Well, of this issue that was brought in today, are they looking into it now? Is there something that are we waiting for a response from them?
No, that already happened. I can't speak for the county, so I don't know what they're doing, but I do know that our city engineers actually physically went out and did a physical inspection of the area. And the report that came back was that they did not find anything out of the
Oh, so it's
ordinary.
already
Before
been
the
done.
letter was sent to us, they did go out there, because we did get residents coming to our office, so we passed it on to the city engineer to look at it. The report back to me was they physically went out there, they checked the project. After that was done, then they submitted the letter of approval.
Okay, so there's nothing pending in terms of.
If there's no other comments or questions, what are the wishes of the commission on this particular item?
I think if we
can table
table
it,
this item,
but we can't.
it can come back in 2 weeks. We can continue to look into.
But it's gonna be approved anyway. That's what I'm understanding, right? If we table it, it's gonna come back in 15 days. I don't think they're gonna make an arrangement or anything in 15 days, right? So it's gonna be approved because of how far in the process it is right now.
Not actually.
Can I make a motion
Yes.
to approve the
Second.
final plat?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? I'll abstain. One abstention.
Can you ask
I'm
the
sorry.
city engineer to meet with Pinnacle's engineer? This is something that you as a commission could do.
The item is already,
Item's already been voted on and approved.
but you can.
We definitely recommend for the city to continue to look at this issue, for sure.
Let me say that on the recommendation that they meet and sit down again.
Yes.
I know that maybe there's something they didn't see, but just so we won't prolong.
This is only one unit,
ask you-
one phase.
Yeah, Mr. Leandra's phone number will.
And I know the city they're the ones who are gonna release the building permit, so at that point, there's definitely some other tools the city has to discuss this item.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
there's certain tools. The city engineer can pull the permits.
Right.
On those plats that you have already approved,
Yes.
if he's not in compliance with the land use ordinance.
And we definitely recommend for the city to definitely sit with them and really look at this.
And I know we only are part of the city, right? But maybe the county should be there too, you know, so they can help them.
And what about the retention ponds that are not effective? Is there something we can do
They're supposed to
there
go and check.
to suggest that they look at that?
I didn't understand the question.
The retention ponds that exist but are not collecting water, it seems, is there something that can be done to suggest that those are reviewed as well?
I believe the engineer mentioned something about warranty and.
Warranty.
On all of that, so they're supposed to go back and check.
They come
city
back to
inspectors.
warranty for them.
Look at-
So it doesn't become the city's for a year. And
For a year.
so the contractor, the engineer of record, they're warranting the detention area. And after the year's over, they'll come back to the city engineer, right? He'll review that project. If he does accept it, then the city goes through the process to take over that land.
And when does that happen? Like, how long are
In a year.
A year later.
A year
A
later.
year, but for this plat, but I'm talking about the existing retention ponds.
I think those would be.
Honorable Chairman, members of the Commission, Ramon Chavez, if I could just clarify that on commercial industrial development, there's what we call standard maintenance and monitoring agreements, which the developer is responsible for to maintain for perpetuity.
Up
So
to
we're-
a year.
No, on the detention ponds, they're responsible.
Oh, okay.
For commercial and industrial development.
Oh,
So
okay.
then enforcement comes in, and we make sure that these detention ponds are maintained adequately to perform what they were designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And code enforcement takes action. If not, they'll bring it up to our attention, and we'll look into those matters.
In the conversation when he came up, that's one thing he mentioned, that they were gonna go back to see everybody that already has that, to make sure they're maintaining what their responsibility is, and it could be that part of
And
it.
that's part of the.
And that's something they said they were gonna do.
Things that we started doing there at the office, on some of these, the previous phases that have been.
Checklist. Okay.
Thank you.
I apologize, I was telling you what happens for residential, but this is.
Right,
Commercial.
all right, okay, so,
Go back.
sorry? Oh, can we, I've been asked to re-clarify the vote on the motion on 9F. So how many were
It
in
was,
favor of the motion?
Well, we had 8 were voting, one
We have one abstention, and then,
was against.
no, nay or opposed, so we have one opposed.
One opposed and one abstention. So 6-1. I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to item 6A, or 6, public hearing and recommendation of an ordinance, 6A, amending the zoning ordinance map of the city of Laredo by rezoning Lot 2, Block 1, Trotman M&I subdivision located at 1303 International Boulevard from B1 Limited Business District to B3 Community Business District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, we have the applicant, Bogama LLC owner, we have Gonzalo Guida applicant, and we have George J. Algild as a representative. Property location, we have Lot 2, Block 1, Trotman M&I subdivision, located at 1303 International Boulevard. We have a zone change request from a B1 to B3. Proposed uses for a pet shop, for pet grooming and bakery. We have letters sent, which were 26. We have none for and 1 against. Location view. Aerial view. Street view. Zone change signage. Zoning overview. Future land use map. And the recommendation is staff does not support. And the proposed motion.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wished to speak in favor of this item? Yes.
Good day to you all. George Altfeld on behalf of Obama LLC. I would like to just draw our attention briefly to this zone map here. As I understand it, this is a car wash, I guess if you,
Change it. It's a future land.
That's a future land use, we'll put up to
I'm
some.
sorry, one more? There you go.
There you go.
Mr. Ali, I do have a quick question before you start. We did receive a letter here.
We received,
I don't know if this is 1303
Yes.
International Boulevard.
We supplemented our packet with that letter earlier today.
Okay, I guess more clarification on the item, is this the purpose of this
Yes.
letter? Just
Yeah.
because we're just getting it right now, we really haven't had a chance to look at it.
Right, and I'll get to that in a minute. It's not too earth-shattering, it may not be too outcome determinative, but
Thank you.
you can tuck that away for right now, if you don't mind. Kind of coming back to the map, you can see just north of International, there's a car wash that's used to be called Dale Shine. I don't know what, I think they changed the name, but that's also a B3. Just south of International is Buffalo Pond and Raul's Barbecue, and it kind of, on Sunday, it kind of becomes one thing, during the week, it's another. That's also a B3. And we're requesting the zone change to be a B3 as well, which is consistent with at least those two properties, right? And I'm gonna go ahead and, again, I'm looking at the color coding here, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the future land use map, right? Forgive me if I'm out of line, please correct me, but is this color coding consistent with B3 as well? Am I seeing this pink?
The pink is mixed use, neighborhood mixed use.
Neighborhood mixed use?
Yeah.
And is that a term that's currently,
It's from the comprehensive plan.
that hasn't quite yet, I guess, turned into Recode Laredo just yet? Or are we
No,
adopting that?
The comprehensive plan identifies the zones that correspond to the land uses.
Okay.
So it's,
So we're not outside of the future proposed land use, I guess is kind of where I'm heading.
with the
The B1?
comprehensive plan.
With going from a B1 to a B3. That's the point I'm trying to make. And if I'm missing something, please correct me.
Sure.
And then, interestingly, staff doesn't support the proposed zone change because it anticipates anticipated to negatively impact the traffic in the area based on the more intense uses surrounding the property. Anticipates, I'm going to use the word presumption, assume. A traffic study hasn't been conducted. What sort of empirical data exists that would buttress this assumption, I'm not aware of. And what I am aware of is that my client has had this property for sale for over 1,000 days. It's been on the market, a couple nibbles here and there. The purpose of the letter that has been entered to supplement this application is that we have a potential buyer, and the potential buyer would very much like to use this situs as a small breed, pet grooming locale. You can look at the street view. We've got, because the city requires it, we got parking galore. Whomever operates this building, independent of staff's assumption, will have access to all of this parking and parking places. You could open a taqueria, and I'm sure it would be an overnight success. It probably wouldn't be best and highest use, but you could fill that parking lot handedly. An argument could be made, you might not be able to fill it so efficiently with a simple pet grooming type of a business, but we have a ready, willing, and able buyer, and the purchase is contingent upon the zone change from the B1 to the B3 that is consistent with the future land use model that's been presented by staff, and it's also consistent with the adjacent property and the property across the street. We very respectfully request that you all make a recommendation for the zone change from B1 to B3.
Mr. Aldo, is it just one suite on that property, or is it several suites, or
I believe that's all one suite or one,
like one?
I see two entrances. I see your point. Yeah, there are two entrances. The intended use is to occupy the entirety of the building for that purpose.
It would only be right in, right out, right?
Yeah.
Of this property?
Yes.
Because you can't go left, you have to go into the neighborhood when you leave
That's
the
right.
establishment.
That's right. You have to go down this, I think it's a major collector, if I'm not mistaken. It's the designation of international, and I mean, we've all been on international. We all know that this is definitely a choke point going east, and traffic moves rather efficiently at least on most days, at most times going east. Going west is the choke point.
Creo que tiene ahí la división, creo que tiene la división en medio, como los palitos esos
Right.
amarillos. Entonces tiene que entrar y salir para el mismo lado. A lo mejor por eso no lo estaban aprobando. And the reason for the change is because, ahora bien, the reason for the change is because in the B1,
Can't have
you can't have
the business they want.
the business of the pets, right?
How many parking spaces are here?
Oh my goodness.
8, 9,
I counted 15.
son 10, creo.
23 diplomatic smart.
Sí.
7 on that side of the handicap. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9.
Y luego acá no sé si son más verticales.
No, I do see on the map, there's a B3 next to it and across the street. What's staff's?
So, he's not, his observation is correct. One of the things we also look at when we do this, we have to look at the impact of what a B3, what businesses can be allowed in a B3. Because once, as you all well know, once you make your change from one zone to another, that's gonna be the zone. And whatever the items that could be done in that zone apply, right? In this case, they're talking about a grooming facility. If that place closes, something opens up and they're B3, they can put something else. We also look at it from perspective of, I know that car wash came in, and I guess fortunately, they're doing very well, but that also impacts that area. Traffic has gone out there and try to mitigate the problem with the traffic by putting those yellow markers. We're having U-turns that are happening in the area. It's become just a traffic issue when you have the schools that let out, the northern UISD is on International Building, all those cars come in, and it gets very congested in that area. I believe this building has 8 parking spaces, and they're diving to the left. So the radius to get out of there, I'm not sure how it would be done, because they would dive into the parking space and then they would they'd come out, they'd have to reverse, but at a different angle to get out. So it's a very tight parking lot. The other thing is, we're fans of the Pet Grooming Bakery. I mean, they are a successful business. They do very well, and it's a very popular place. And our thoughts on this is not only are we have traffic there, we're going to bring in more traffic because of the popularity of this business. It is a business that does well in our community. The problem is this place is very tight, very tight.
Mr. Navarro, my question is, as a B1, would the applicant, if they wanted to, have the option to do a conditional use permit as a
We can
use
definitely discuss that.
for this use? So
We can
that would be an
definitely
option that the city would consider, a conditional use permit in this area.
Because then that eliminates that worry that, oh, it's been changed to a B3 and they can come in with
Right, and
another
do
business. This
another
way,
intense use.
the conditions can be set for this particular business, and then we can concentrate to put the conditions that would help open this.
If that were the case.
If that were the
But
case.
you're-
And obviously.
Would limit the marketability of the property, which is the current problem that we're having right now. And, okay, it's tight parking if you're backing up a horse trailer or an RV. I don't see tight parking here. I see 8 slots conservatively, maybe 9.
No,
I think there's 14.
They're 10.
Or more.
13? Okay, I apologize.
10
It's
or
more than-
13.
10 and then like.
And by the way, I mean, traffic generation, I mean, don't we want businesses in Laredo to succeed? Don't we want to create a vital, vibrant economy? I mean, or do we want to be the city of no? And I won't get on my soapbox with all the downtown catastrophe that we've had in getting things properly, adjusted and recoded and zoned. I mean, this is, in my estimation, I think this is a very reasonable request. It's consistent with future land use. It's consistent with 2 businesses next to it, and traffic is being piped, going east. We should be the city of yes.
I was gonna say, just by looking at the map, the lot looks very regular, almost like it was almost part of 8619. They kind of separated the 2 lots. It looks very regular. It's very narrow, rectangular.
Very long, yeah.
It looks very narrow, and I was thinking right now.
It's almost part of the B3
Yes.
property.
But ultimately, it's the buyer who's gonna have to deal with
That's
Right,
their
so
customers coming in and going.
there's no minimum width, like for the entrance that y'all look at for B3s, you do B4s?
The minimum width,
Yeah.
I would have to ask traffic if they're here, but I'm on a minimum width would, not really.
God bless you.
I think the building department approved this when they submitted,
Yeah, it's what you're saying.
I think that this.
With the B1,
minimum's
the
okay.
intent of offices or something to that effect, which a B1 allows.
The issue is like the pawn shop or Raul's Barbecue or whatever it is in that corner. They have access to McPherson and not necessarily have them go into the neighborhood
Yeah.
in International, right? Here, that's the only concern I see is that you have to make that ride into International and go into Oak Ridge and then weave your way around the neighborhood, right?
You don't have to go into Oak Ridge. You can just go about your way, right?
Continue on to,
Right.
yeah, north if you're going north.
¿Y por qué no se pone de acuerdo con el vecino y pavimentan ahí y puede salir por otro lado?
Yeah. So,
That is.
Es que si te fijas, nomás estamos viendo aquí un aerial. In the aerial, there's like only a little piece of grass. Do you see it or no?
Yeah.
It's like just a little piece of grass and there's no, ¿cómo se dice? Arroyo, no hay nada, pues que pavimenten y
A lot of other cities are in fact getting rid of those medians to allow for flow-through traffic
Yes.
from parking lot to
From parking to
parking lot.
parking, claro.
And
I think that's
it's
an
something that one day when
That's a good agreement.
It's an agreement landowners can come to.
And to landowners, and now she would have 2 exits through McPherson and through International.
I think visibility wise, you have around 4 vertical parking spots that might probably be staff, that they're gonna be there all day. And then you have the 10 other spots for visitors. They're going in and out. I don't think that they're like, crossing each other. It seems like there is visibility for people to go in and out, and it seems like a tight space, but I think there's plenty of space to, come in and out from there. And it's already been approved that way for a reason, right?
Would they be okay with a conditional use permit?
They would not, sir, because it affects the marketability of the property. Because, the buyer wants to do this pet grooming type of a business. And yes, they've had some success, but who's to tell, right? Especially when looking at the future land use model, maybe, being the only B1 in the bunch may no longer be, clearly it would make them not as marketable as the other B3s.
I only ask that because, say, in 3, 5 years, 10 years, if they shut down, it's already a B3. And that's my only concern, but, yeah. But I'm okay.
And there's, the difference between a B3 and a B1 uses, there's probably about 8 or 9 that are not allowed in B1.
What would those be?
Well, we wrote some
We have a couple of them here. Car lot with auto repair, pawn shop, building material sales, motorcycle dealer, all-terrain vehicle sales, auto glass repair and tinting, car wash with detail shop, quick lube, parking for vehicles, RVs, and trailers.
Staff didn't oppose it for those reasons.
Yeah.
No, but again, you know, there are a couple of things, like, if there was shared access
Shared access,
between the two businesses, that would be a plus.
that would be a plus.
You know, I mean, no problem. A conditional use permit, obviously, to answer some of the concerns that we might have. It still opens the business. I understand what he's saying, but it does open the business if they wanna open the business there, that would get them there. And council, if they had any conditions that they wanted to put, just because they're concerned about something, they can put it on there. Then it could be reviewed down the road if necessary. We could have put a life on the CUP and then bring it back and discuss it, you know, at that time to show that it's working, what have you. I mean, none of this is guaranteed because this is a city council decision.
It's the city.
But it's the concern on the B3 that businesses that can go there, even
Can
though
affect the,
these businesses might not want to be there because these type of businesses don't fit there.
Don't fit there. Yeah.
So going to a B3 doesn't really it can stay B1 because
with a conditional use permit.
the B1 will take care of all the businesses that would be interested in being there, and the ones that are B3 required wouldn't necessarily go there because it wouldn't work for them. So
Or if it were to become a B3, then they have the option to get conditional use permits for anything in a B4.
Four,
That's right, it goes up that way.
it goes up.
Yeah, but to be clear, we're still bound by all city, state, federal laws, particularly common law, nuisance laws. You know, we're still, you know, whomever occupies that property, whether it's B3 or otherwise, you know, still can't go make a big mess out of that property. And to your point, sir, you're correct. I mean, they clearly, you know, somebody at some point in time cut this sliver off of that, you know, B3 and has made this weird rectangle that is unmarketable. And think about it, 1,000 days on the market in one of the busiest, most hoppinest necks of the woods. Nobody, the only one foolish enough to buy it was my client, you know, way back when. And he's you know, built it out, he's done what he could, and we keep coming up upon this, well, if it's not a B3, I just really don't want it.
Thank you, Mr. Algo. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor? Anybody else in favor? Anybody against this item? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
How does it work to take it to a conditional use permit?
You could ask the applicant if it's something that he wishes to go forward with, and if not, then you can just say the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission is a conditional use permit. But, so those are your two options here.
I would like to close public hearing and support the B3 zone change.
I second.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, I'm going to have to show of hands for the ayes. Ayes?
Wait.
Sorry, what? Wait.
So one more time.
Ayes?
Those in favor?
All in favor? Against? Did you get it?
I got it.
3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes, 3 no.
Who were the 3 that said no?
Barron?
1, 2, 3. Okay.
But I would say yes to the CUP for the record.
Yeah.
Me too,
So
but
it's
there's
a recommendation.
R1 right next to it.
It's just a recommendation.
I would
So
recommend this.
motion carries for recommendation of zone.
Thank you. May I be excused?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you.
Moving on to item 6B, amending the zoning ordinance map of the city of Laredo by amending ordinance 2022-0-012, which authorizes special use permit for mini storage on lot 4B, block 3, amending plat of D&J Alexander Commercial Subdivision Phase 15, lots 4A, 4B, 4C, block 3, located at 7121 Bartlett Avenue, in order to amend the site plan to reconfigure the storage units and parking and amend the hours of operation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, we have North Bartlett Mini Storage LLC as the owner, and we have Ricardo Verial as representative. property location, Lot 4B, Block 3, amending plat of D&J Alexander Commercial Subdivision, Phase 15, lots 4A, 4B, 4C, Block 3, located at 7121 Bartlett Avenue. Zone change request is an amendment of a special use permit for mini storages. Proposed use is the mini storages. Letters sent were 5, and we have none for and none against. As a quick background, we have an ordinance 2022-0-011, which was a zone change. On February 7, 2022, City Council approved of a zone change from R1 to B3. We had another ordinance of 2022-0-012 for a special use permit, and on February 7, 2022, City Council approved of a special use permit for mini storages. So the applicant has requested an SUP amendment for the ordinance 2022-0-012, which were the SUP for mini storages, and the requested amendments are as follows. We have the site planned, which was a total of 516 units and 5 different buildings being proposed, which differs from the 427 units and 7 buildings that was previously approved. The parking was also amended. The amended amount of parking will be 10 parking spaces, including handicap parking spaces, which differs from the 5 previously approved parking spaces. Inside the gate of the mini storages, the amended amount of parking spaces will be 20 spaces, which differs from the 19 that were previously approved. The proposed amended hours of operation will be able to accommodate 24-hour services and may adjust hours to be less on certain off-peak days, which differs from the previously approved hours of operation of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. We have location view, aerial view, street view, zone change signage, zoning view, future land use map, and the recommendation is staff supports, and the proposed motion.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this item?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Ricardo Villarreal, Topside Civil Group, representing the client. Here to answer any questions and speak in favor of the SUP.
I have a question. In comment number 1, there has something scratched out. Do you see?
Yes. We're just replacing the site plan, the
Oh,
whole site plan.
The
with
site
new
plan, with a new site plan? Okay. Because it said like restricted to
Yeah.
a mini storage.
I think the old
warehouse.
site plan was Exhibit B, as it was stating, and now the new SUP, the new site plan is Exhibit A.
Okay, so that's why you scratched it out.
So, Mr. Vidal, at the end of the day, the original SUP was the hours of operation. You're looking at 24 hours now. It is a mini storage, right? So people sometimes can only move at certain times of the day or.
Correct.
Right.
So,
And then the additional units that, you went from 7 buildings to 5 buildings, but more units.
correct, and it's mainly to clean things up. So what happens is, whenever you start a project like this, and you need a special permit for this specific use, a lot of times the developers and the owners come in and they say, first of all, can I even do it, right? Before I spend all this money on marketing and engineering and all this, can I even do this in this specific site? So you come up with a preliminary site plan at the beginning to get it approved, and you get the SUP approved. And as you start getting into engineering and marketing and all that, and you're a year in, now they say, you know what? We need to add more indoor AC units. We need to add more bigger units, smaller units. So even though there's less buildings, the square footage is around the same. So if, right now we're under a building permit, we're constructing what's been approved. Because of the way the ordinance is written, if, once we get a CO, if the city comes and says, hey, your SUP didn't match your new one that the city approved, you know, you can kind of get shut down.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that there's a different route next time, but it just creates this route again for us to kind of like solidify the new site plan. It's a little, yeah.
And this is a special use permit, so when it goes to council, this becomes law. They create an ordinance, so the exhibit is part of the law. So he wants to make changes, he has to go back to council and request it because it is in the books as a law. And so that's what he's doing. He's coming to make those changes.
Thank you. Any other questions from staff? Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? Anybody who wishes to speak against this item? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
Motion to approve this item.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second.
Approve with the 24 hours and the change of the site plan.
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carries. Moving on to review and consideration of the following master plan. Item 7A. Review and consideration of revision to the Santa Elena subdivision master plan. The intent is residential and commercial. The purpose of this revision is to reconfigure phases 3, 4, and 5.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Applicant, for the record, applicant is Hapo Holding. Engineering, Spot Nance Engineering. Proposed use is residential and commercial. The zoning for this 967 lot development is B1, R1A, and AG. Location view. Aerial view. The revised master plan. Comments from planning. Fire. Traffic. And the proposed motion.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Wayne Nance with Porter's Engineering. We agree with all the comments. We're here for any questions.
I'm glad you agreed with the comment. I just wanted to see if Mr. Nance can help us out here. Right now, he's been contracted by someone to develop this property. He's designing a master plan. But part of that is his drainage plan too. He's working on a drainage plan for this whole area.
Say what?
What? I'm doing what? But as you guys were talking about in the previous case,
They did the previous.
you know, how does this process start? Where do they go with it and everything? So right now, he's proposing this master plan. It's coming through here. Then he'll start the process to go through this so that by the time it comes to final, which could be from this point to getting final could be 3 years.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. Yeah, it's a process, of course.
Those comments would show up either under planning or under engineering, correct?
Right now, he's working the master plan, then he'll come in with a preliminary and.
Well, the next item will be the one where we get comments from the conditional comments that legal was talking about. And you'll see that on the agenda, the next agenda for the preliminary plat.
Wayne, I did have some questions.
Okay.
For this master plan.
Thanks.
Phase 1 is already built, is that correct?
What's that?
Phase 1 is already done?
That's correct.
And then you have final on phase 3?
Final on phase 3, yes, that is correct.
And then, and I know there was a comment on double frontage lots.
Yes.
The main entrance currently is, I can't really see, we've got a small little.
Yeah, it's
map.
Facilidad.
I'm sorry, what's the name of the street?
Facilidad.
Facilidad.
No cuss.
The next phase in phase 2, I guess that's where the double frontage lot and 5, I guess, where there's 2 streets fronting the lots, right?
Yes.
But I'm assuming the main entrance right now is the reason why we would be doing this.
No, actually
Because typically, my question is typically 2 lots back up to one another.
Yes.
At times, it's not by itself, but only when it's next to a collector.
That's correct.
Right.
And we have one area, we have a small area where that staff noted, where it's a remainder of where a collector turned back into a residential street at 50, and we have that double frontage just on those few lots. And staff did notice that, and we could easily rearrange the lots to solve this problem. That's why we're just agreeing with these comments. The next time, we're gonna address the master plan.
So there wouldn't be access from that street to phases 2 and 5. You would have to go to Pellegrino, or I can't really say what the other street is. Am I making sense?
That's correct, that's correct.
Right.
And I'm sure the plat's gonna require that.
And that roadway in, is that a 60? the whole way through?
I think it widens up a little bit as it approaches 83, but I don't have that right in front of me. I don't know if Rafa knows off the top of his head. It's probably at 60.
I would think,
No, they're-
because the next collector you have is further down south.
You can see they're 50.
Alma Mater, and that seems like a pretty wide street.
That's a much wider street because that's identified in the long-range thoroughfare plan as a larger roadway. So
That has to be designed in that way
That's
because of the
designed.
thoroughfare plan.
Yes, that's-
But the current street that you're going to have in phase 3, I would hope it's wide enough because, and that would help also from people, encouraging people to try to get access off it.
Absolutely.
You would recognize that it's a wider street, and that's why you're gonna drive off.
There
into the
are
neighborhood.
3 in this northern area. There are 3 local collectors that people can exit on.
Okay.
So 2 to the north and 1 towards 83. So they have good access points. Yes.
And Mr. Valdoso from Portland has been to our office to explain the changes he was making to accommodate.
Well, I would just hope that roadway isn't a local collector, a local street, as far as the main one. 'Cause number one's gonna carry a lot of traffic in and out of, how many homes are in this area?
I don't know, I don't have that number, like the total master plan.
Like the total master plan, and maybe even just north of the drainage channel. I mean, how many homes will be coming and exiting in and out of this development onto 83?
A few hundred, yes. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I guess I would hope planning would really look at the size of that street.
They've already.
We've done a traffic impact analysis, but we hired traffic engineers to look at all of this.
And then the next question, as far as this park space, that's the Vega, I guess, that's part of the park requirement that's going to be given is along the river frontage?
That is part of it, yes, and we've presented to the Parks Board, and as far as I understand, that's been approved.
Okay.
En the live se ven las dos salidas por un lado y la de la 83.
Yeah, there's 3.
There's 3.
Yeah, forgive me for not knowing, I don't have the.
No,
right
aquí
in
te
front
los
of me.
digo, mira,
There's 2
Decano,
ways.
Ahí
Cuenca,
va.
and Faculdad.
Rosendo is one.
Yeah, Rosendo.
And Cuenca is the other one.
Yes, and then
And then
Faculdad.
there's Tesis Drive and it comes to Doctorado and then the.
That's correct.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, is Parks here?
Yes. Yes.
I guess I had a question for you guys, as far as on this master plan park. I'm assuming it's a linear park that's going to be collecting into College Heights and eventually the property, I guess, south of this development. I guess is there a master plan for this area, for this park?
Elizabeth Carrera, Parks Planner.
Yes,
I need to, can you go back so we can look at it?
yes. I don't know if you can put up the master plan.
Okay. All right. So this was presented to the Parks Board before it was turned into an advisory committee. So this was already presented to a board and it was reviewed before. I have not reviewed this plan, but we do have a large amount of park space and is this, I guess I need a little bit more information on this one.
I think the idea was going to be to try to create I guess like a Father Magnus type park along the riverbank from, I'm assuming, to College Heights and then south of it, or?
There's a bigger master plan to this park, and they're trying to up the river, create a linear park along that area. We have bike trails that are leading to it. So this is part of a huge master plan that they're working on, and Carrera here is the planning, parks planner for the Parks Department. She reviews with the engineers these designs, and
Yeah, I was just making sure there's some connection between, but there is, I guess you can tell a little bit, I guess.
Yes, nice.
North of that College Heights, and then hopefully when the master plan comes in the south.
I can speak to that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, this area right over here, this is part of the River Vega. This was dedicated by Prada, Senor Prada, a long time ago to the city of Laredo. The city of Laredo owns this River Vega north, adjacent to College Heights, and has owned it for 1990, who cares? Yeah, and then the same will happen here. It will be a continuation of the river park, the River Vega is what we call it, yes.
Thank you.
Of course.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, what are the wishes of the commission? We have a motion to approve. We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Valdez.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Oh, yeah, one,
Against.
one against. Okay, motion carries. Moving on to consideration of the following preliminary plats and preliminary replats. Item 8A, preliminary consideration of the plat of Santa Elena subdivision phase 4. The intent is residential.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for the record, applicant is Hapo Holdings, engineers Porras Nance Engineering. The proposed use is residential, and the zoning for this 38 lot development is AG. Location view, aerial view, street view, the proposed plat, comments from planning, fire, traffic safety, and the proposed motion.
Wayne Nance with Porras Engineering again. We agree with the comments. We're here for any questions.
For plat note number 3, or the comment number 3, I know it mentioned something about single-family detached dwelling units per lot. The question to staff is, wouldn't zoning kind of taking care of making sure there's only one dwelling unit per lot? Or why would that comment be here?
So this comment is actually in compliance with the model subdivision rules that the city adopted under the criteria under the Water Development Board. So the type of development this is actually requires that plat note on there. So even though it's separate, it's actually separate apart from the zoning, so it is required as a plat note.
Under the model rules?
That's correct, yes, sir. They're in compliance.
And then there is one lot that I can see, because it's a replat, right? So there's like one area, or it says that's platted and then replat over, or am I looking at the wrong plot? Can you pull up the plat? Okay.
You want to leave it up?
Yeah, no, we're good.
We're good?
Yeah, no questions, thank you.
There's no other questions for the engineer, or the wishes of the commission.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just for the record, I think there's nothing wrong with this particular item or the prior one, but I just want to say for the record that in general, I oppose sprawling in our city, at least until our water infrastructure is taken care of. So I just wanted to say that for the record.
No.
Motion to approve?
Second. So we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, me ganó Barrón.
All in favor? Against? Motion carries. Moving on to item 8B. Preliminary consideration of the replat of San Isidro Southwest Antler Crossing Subdivision Phase 5, Block 119E, Block 5 into SKG Twin Home Subdivision. The intent is residential twin homes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for the record, applicant is SKG Homes, engineers Bewa Consulting. Proposed use is residential, and the zoning for this 128 lot development is R2, a PUD. Location view, area view, street view. The proposed replat for PUD. Comments from planning, fire, traffic safety, parks and leisure, and the proposed motion.
Thank you. Engineer Lippert.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, for the record, Rudy Santillan from Bewa Consulting, and we concur with staff comments.
Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
Do you have any proposed pictures or designs of these twin homes?
Not at the moment. I think we had some for site plan approval in the previous P&Z meeting 2 weeks ago. So unfortunately, I don't have them.
But you guys have them?
We can send
They're the same elevations that you showed in the last P&Z
Correct.
meeting? Okay.
No further questions.
No further questions. What's the wish of the commission?
Motion to approve subject to staff comments.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Moving on to item 8C, preliminary consideration of the replat of Lot 1, Block 1, Killam Industrial Park, Unit 16, into Lot 1A, Block 1, Killam Industrial Park, Unit 16. The purpose of this replat is to remove an existing utility and access easement and reduce acreage. The intent is industrial.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for the record, applicant is Killam Development, engineer is Ms. Pita Engineering, proposed use is industrial, and the zoning for this one lot development is M1. Location view, aerial view, street view, the plat and the replat, comments from planning, and the proposed motion.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Hugo Seca with Mesquite Engineering, representing Killam Development, and we don't have any issue with the comments.
Thank you.
Hugo, so you're reducing acreage?
Yes.
And there was a clip on the south?
There's 1.3 acres on the east side of the original plat that are being unused that we want to tag to the future development of the east.
And currently within this plat, there's a warehouse already?
There's a couple. There's one and one being constructed, yes.
And then there's a drainage pond on the south of this property?
Yes.
But that's
Detention.
not, that's the city's? like,
No,
they
it's
maintain-
part of the development.
Oh, is it within this plat?
Yes, it's detaining.
And there's a big detention as well on the, I guess, on the west side of this property, I think, or on the east?
On the west, not just on the south side.
Okay. That runs off from the, I guess?
Yeah, we
from Killam to the back?
recently constructed channels, and we're going to Loma right now, analyzing a Loma.
And the channels are within this property also?
No, they're outside, but they're bringing the water to this detention that you're talking about.
There are no other questions or comments or the wishes of the commission?
Motion to close and support.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Moving on to item 8D, preliminary consideration of replat of Lot 7 and 8, Block 1, Milo Distribution Center, Phase 1, an unplatted 25.00 acre tract out of 300.00 acres owned by Herd Urban Development LLC into Lot 7A, Block 1, Milo Distribution Center, Phase 1. The intent is industrial. The purpose of this replat is to combine Lot 7 and 8, Block 1, Milo Distribution Center, and an unplatted 25.00 acre tract of land.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for the record, applicant is Bugward Ventures, engineer is KCI Technologies. Proposed use is industrial. The zoning for this one lot development is M1. Location view, aerial view, street view, the proposed replat, comments from planning, and the proposed motion.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the commission and staff. Edward Ochoa with KCI, and we have no issues with the comments provided.
Any questions or comments from the commission? If not, go to the vote.
Motion to approve subject to staff comments?
Have a motion? Second. Second, Commissioner Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Moving on to item 8E, preliminary consideration of the Sierra Ranch Townhomes plat. The intent is residential.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for the record, applicant is STX Land Development, engineer is Ricardo Villarreal, topside civil crew. Proposed use is residential, and the zoning for this 120 lot development is a B3 PUD. Location view, aerial view, street view, the proposed PUD, Comments from planning? Fire? Traffic safety? Parks and leisure? And the proposed motion.
Thank you.
A ver, ¿dónde está eso? Estoy perdida. Do you have like a over?
My Divine Mercy.
Yes, by Divine Mercy.
By
San
Divine
Isidro
Mercy.
Parkway and the highway, the railroad track.
A ver, ¿dónde está?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Ricardo Villarreal representing the client. We were here about maybe 4 weeks ago to discuss this project. I know we were discussing the TIA part of it. Those comments stayed on when planning and zoning took them off. So I just have an issue again with those. I don't want to start it up again. I know not everybody was here, but if anybody has any questions, but we request that the TIA portion of the traffic comment be removed. It was taken care of by planning. Planning did put note number 7 to coordinate with the traffic director with any of the entrances, exits, so on and so forth. But the TIA can't do anything. The roads are there. The TIA usually gets done at the beginning of the project, like Wayne's master plan. So anybody has any questions, here to answer.
I see your point, because we approved those minutes today and it's scratched off on those minutes, so what do we?
As long as number 7's there, where the traffic director works with the engineer and they come to an agreement, I mean, we would just like to have that there. Does it need a TIA? If the traffic director sees it, that needs it because of something, they'll deal with that when they're talking in their design.
Just for an example, 2 items before that y'all just approved, right next to us, our neighbor, the comment wasn't there. So I'm not trying to go back and forth, but I think we all know that the area is already developed.
Want me to put it on there?
That's why they left.
There's the planning 7, and then there's another one over here, and traffic safety submit a TIA.
Yeah, so.
Well, that's what he's saying, scratch out number 3.
Scratch out number 3.
Leave 7.
Right. Yeah.
But leave 7.
But leave 7.
Okay.
Okay. I'm fine.
If there's no other questions or comments,
Just one
Yes.
question. Is there only one entry and exit?
No, there's actually 2. I have my site plan here.
Is it where the new Springfield
So
going to be?
I have a dislocated finger that I want to show everybody. So the main entrance is off of San Isidro. Well, both sides are San Isidro Parkway, but pointing north, and the secondary entrance is on the southwest of the property.
Oh, so those have not been constructed yet, but they're.
Yeah, they're planned. So this has already been approved by building department. We're just going through the PUD motion. So you'll see me again, hopefully in 2 weeks for a final plan. Oh, maybe not. But yes, the fire has looked at this, and we do have 2 exits.
Thank you. John Howard, I know we talked about last time about PUDs and the process of parkland dedication and how that's looked at. And I do highly recommend that we form a subcommittee, take a closer look at it as far as how that works and funding and how much per acre, especially the differences of cost of land throughout the city.
Yes.
Okay. So we can form a subcommittee just to look at it, right, and see what's going on based on the options that developers have at some point, whether to dedicate money or to give the land, right?
That's actually an issue that, well, 2 things. One, we're looking at the process internally in our office, but we're also looking at the impact that would have, the cash in lieu of.
Right.
Yes, we are looking at that because, yes, it's nice sometimes, but because we're staying away from pocket parks.
Right.
And then we go to bigger parks, but that also creates some issues for us.
Yeah.
So we are looking at both sides. And Thank goodness we have a parks planner that can
Great.
take care of it for us.
And I highly recommend we form a subcommittee of maybe 2 or 3 of the commissioners and kind of just look at the ordinance and see if there's anything we can recommend to council.
If there's no other comments or questions, what are the wishes of the commission?
Motion to approve, with removal of traffic safety, number 3.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second, Commissioner Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. We're moving on to consideration of the following final plats and final replats. If there's no objections from commission or staff, I'd like to hear, could hear items 9A through 9E together.
And I don't know if I look up
Did you want to include F in there, or just up to E?
Well,
we already did.
You already did it. That's what I
That's
said.
that, right?
Don't get me started.
You want to do that one again?
Por favor.
We have a motion.
My bad.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion for action on items 9A through 9E?
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Can we now read them into record?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. For the record, the final consideration of the plat of Embarcadero Phase 2 subdivision, final consideration of the plat of Lot 6A, Block 1418, Eastern Division, final consideration of the replat of lots 35, 34, and 35, Block 18, Santa Rita subdivision, Unit 6A, into lots 34A and 35A, Block 18, Santa Rita subdivision, Unit 6A. Final consideration of the Jesus and Mundo Garcia plat. And the last one is final consideration of Lasco plat at Cielito Lindo subdivision.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item, consideration of model subdivision compliance. Item 10A, consideration of model subdivision rule compliance to the plat of Cresta Bella at Alexander subdivision. Intent is residential. Can I have a motion on this item?
Motion. Okay. To approve?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Moving on to director's comments.
All I was going to say is, hopefully by the next meeting, I'd like to present to you all the application process that we go through and what's submitted when the application being submitted by the engineers. So hopefully we can have a short presentation, just so that you're aware of what they would have to submit for a complete packet, and so you have an understanding of what they submit. So we'll try to do a brief presentation for them. It's just a generic presentation so that you all can see.
And what is that 2-week time frame? What is that driven by?
Law.
Like
State law.
state, so they only have 2 weeks.
Okay, no, are you talking about the case when we told you that they had 2 weeks? So state law.
Ramon mentioned that he's got 2 weeks to review these plans.
Yeah.
Oh, that's within his department, and the ordinance requires that he responds. He can't just let it sit there. He has to respond.
No matter what type
work
of
within those
project?
2 weeks.
He has to give him some kind of response. And I mean, there could be comments made about those 2 weeks, but we won't go there. It's just 2 weeks he has to turn back. Now, the one that we were talking about, the 30 days, when submittal's made for a final, by state law, there's a clock that starts ticking. Well, we call it a clock that starts ticking, right? So we have 30 days to take action on that item.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that what you got, okay. And,
Y por ejemplo, también yo pensé que se podía hacer table, pero no se podía por lo que dijo el licenciado, ¿verdad? De que como ya se había aprobado, ya no más estaba el final, pues de todas maneras ya iba a quedar aprobado. Entonces,
We could have tabled it, wait a minute, there's come back in 2 weeks.
tendría que volver a hacer, o sea, we will be stalling it.
Yeah, exactly. You're not gonna stop it. At that point, it's already final. They've already gone through
all the check marks, all the like.
Whether you agree with the check marks or not, that's another story, but.
Pero que está perjudicando, está perjudicando. Y que tienen que tomar acción, tienen que tomar acción.
They should have tried to stop it before they came up here.
No.
I know Commissioner Barron mentioned about forming a subcommittee to discuss the parks. I don't know if someone wants, if you want to spearhead this.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 to 4 max, so we don't.
I'd be interested myself as well.
So, are you making a motion?
What I'd like to do, maybe if Commissioner Rangel and Commissioner Barron, maybe we can get together and kind of go over the scope of what we want to try to accomplish. And that way we can bring it back here to present and then officially make the.
A workshop.
So that at least we have
Okay.
kind of like what we want to go with.
Okay,
All right, so at least we get the ball rolling.
thank you.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
And I think going forward, with future considerations, if we just let developers know, engineers know, be prepared to address the water drainage issue that we may bring up, depending on where they're building and what impact it has on the current already developed residences there.
You as a commission can ask those questions.
Yeah, but just to give them a heads up that it'll probably be coming.
Oh, but you just gave it to them.
Sí, bueno.
And to add to that, does the environmental department also, I know they oversee stormwater runoff. Do
They're
their-
involved in the process also.
They're involved in the process, but do they also look at it in those terms of like the future impact of the surrounding area?
Absolutely. And then they have to submit a letter. The one-stop shop runs under the engineering department, so all those departments submit their letters to engineering. Engineering is the last letter that of approval before it comes to us. So all the departments do look at these items and they submit to the engineer.
Yes.
There's no other comments? Can I have a
Yeah,
motion to?
she'd like to make.
Oh, yes, go ahead. Yes.
Sorry, I'm actually talking about the tree ordinance. So right now, I'm wanting to address the fact that in our code of ordinances for parking spaces, we do require 10, for every 10 parking spaces, you need 1 tree. And it's just an overarching, it doesn't specify it's supposed to be a car or it's supposed to be a trailer. But I really feel after just hearing what they have to say about the trees, that we really should be enforcing even the trailers to have the trees, like even 10 spaces, because they do take up a significant amount of space and it has environmental impact. So right now, we're only enforcing it with cars, but we should think about it for trailers.
Is that something that city council would need to approve?
I just feel like the environmental impact is there and all those words, it really does impact the environment.
One tree.
If that's a change to the ordinance that Parks is proposing, that they would present it to you all and then from here and go to council. Bring it to us. Recommendation.
Decide, written on that, yeah.
So if there's no other comments, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
All right, thank you.